that the government's resolve is undiminished is one that's been reflected by the Prime Minister herself. This morning, Mrs Thatcher was said to be grim but determined when she chaired the daily meeting of the Inner Cabinet. And this afternoon, her mood appeared little changed when she spoke in London to the Conference of Conservative Women. Our political correspondent, David Coss, was there.
Mrs Thatcher said that our fighting men were engaged in one of the most remarkable military operations in modern times. She said the hearts of the conference went out to the men of the Coventry and the Atlantic Conveyor and to their families. But despite those grievous losses, neither the government's resolve nor its confidence was weakened. The government wanted peace restored, but with the same freedom, justice and democracy that the Falkland Islanders had previously enjoyed.
7 weeks to the day after the invasion, we moved to recover by force what was taken from us by force. It cannot be said too often. We are the victims, they are the aggressors.
Our troops were now established on the Falklands with all necessary supplies, said Mrs Thatcher. They faced formidable problems in difficult terrain, but morale was high.
Now we are present in strength on the Falkland Islands. Our purpose is to repossess them, and we shall persevere until that purpose is accomplished.
But the Prime Minister insisted that there was no question of pressing the task force commander to move forward prematurely. The judgment about the timing of the next move must be his, she said.
The Merchant Navy has given several telephone numbers for people wishing to inquire about the safety of relatives in ships with the task force. We'll be announcing the numbers later in the bulletin. The loss of HMS Coventry is yet another blow to the people of Portsmouth, where the destroyer was based and where many of the families of the crew live. But for large numbers of people, there was also a sense of distress at the length of time between the announcement last night that a ship had been seriously damaged and the naming of HMS Coventry by the Ministry of Defence today. Gerald Butt describes how the tragic news was received.
Portsmouth and the neighbouring areas are this evening digesting the details of the tragedy. Many people spent the night and the morning tuning in to their radios. Once the announcement was made that the Coventry was one of the ships that had gone down, the grim news spread fast by word of mouth, in shops, offices and pubs, and particularly around the large Royal Navy estate where the families live. At Rowner, near Gosport, I spoke to Roland Webb, who's chaplain with the unpleasant task of breaking the news to bereaved families. He said the community had been numbed by the news. One local paper here today had the headline, "Another long night of waiting." And indeed, aside from the grief, this has been the biggest reaction, distress that families had to wait